Hello everyone and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. On today's episode it's Topaz Studio 2, but today I thought I'd show you how to use your Topaz plugins with Topaz Studio 2. Hey, Black Friday was just here and I'm sure a lot of you guys picked up on that everything bundle, so you got all these pieces of software now, Topaz software, and I'm going to show you how to use them inside of Topaz Studio 2. We start out with an iPhone image of this cat and I send it into Jpeg to raw AI, up converted into a raw file so we can do some heavy editing on it. And after we're done editing it, it looks like this. Now, I run different plugins inside of Topaz Studio 2, like Sharpen Ai, Adjust Ai, and some different filters. Without any further ado, though, let's get started. Before we get into Topaz Studio 2, I wanted to give you a background on this image. Now, this is an iPhone image, iPhone 7. This is my cat, Zoe. Cutest little cat, right? I missed the top of its ear, which I'm a little upset about, but I'll try again on another day. It would not cooperate with me. But this image started out in my iPhone. It's a JPEG file, which I end up converting to a RAW file using JPEG to raw AI. By the way, let me show you how I exported that image. Now, I'm using the Apple Photos app. I use maximum JPEG quality. That's very important. You want to use the maximum quality, Adobe RGB color space, and the size, make it full size, because you want to send the highest quality JPEG into JPEG to raw AI at the very start. That's very, very important. Now, here we are inside of JPEG to raw AI with my JPEG image. Okay, now let me show you how easy it is to use JPEG to raw AI. The only thing I'm going to do here is leave my settings on auto. I'm going to put it back in the original source folder. And you have choices here. This is real simple to use. File format, you can do a DNG or a TIFF. It says TIFF twice here. It's the same thing, just different ways of labeling your TIFF file. But I'm using DNG with the Pro Photo color space, which is the largest color space. And it'll also be 16-bit, so it's going to be a very high quality file. And then after I'm done with this, we'll send it into Topaz Studio 2. So now all I have to do is click on Start here, and it'll process my image. And it just takes a few seconds. Now here we are in Topaz Studio 2, and to save a little time, I went ahead and opened up my DNG of Zoe, my cat. As you can see up here, it is a DNG file, .dng, so it is a raw up-converted file, so we can really push our edits on here. Now the first thing I want to do is show you where your plugins live. To see your plugins, go to Add Filter, and they'll be showing up at the very bottom here, or else you can also go over to Filters in the menu and go to plugins, and you'll find your plugins here. And whatever plugin you own from Topaz, they're going to live right in here or else down here. And I usually like to use them down here, so whichever way you like. And I think the first one I want to use is Sharpen Ai, because remember, this started out as a JPEG file from an iPhone, and the iPhone is doing some noise reduction and some processing as well. And so I don't really think I need any noise reduction on this, but I might want to sharpen it up a little bit. So my workflow for iPhone images or any phone images to use Sharpen Ai. I don't really mess with denoise on it. So I'm going to use Sharpen Ai. So let's go ahead and click on that, and that'll open up Sharpen Ai, and we'll do a little bit of sharpening on this image. And here we are in Sharpen Ai. I'm going to keep this simple. I have other tutorials on Sharpen Ai. In fact, I have a bunch of tutorials on Sharpen Ai. But what I want to do here is AI mode. I'm going to click auto, which is already set to auto. The last time I used it, it was on auto, so it's set to auto, and it chose the sharpen model. If it had an image stabilization problem, it would have picked stabilizer. If there was a focus issue, it would have picked focus, but there was none, so it picked sharpen. Okay, and also the settings are set for auto as well, so it's going to determine how much sharpening and noise reduction I need. Okay, and then you can even add grain if you want to, but I definitely don't want to add grain, and you can apply some extra noise reduction if you need it by clicking this on. But I don't need it. I'm happy with the auto settings. All I need to do is click apply, and that'll send us right back into Topaz Studio 2. And now we're back in Topaz Studio 2, and you'll notice I have this layer here that says Sharpen Ai Output. And you'll also notice that I have this opacity slider, so I can pull the opacity back on this if I want to. But of course, why would I want to? I like the sharpening. I'm going to leave it up full. Next, I want to add another plugin. So let's click on Add Filter, And I'm going to come down to my plugin list down here. And the next thing I want to do is run Adjust AI on it. I want to see if I can get some really quick results by using Topaz Adjust AI. Here's where I like to start out in Adjust AI by clicking Standard. It'll go ahead and run its artificial intelligence on it and see what kind of adjustment it thinks it needs on it. And there I get this adjustment, and that looks really nice. Here's the before and here's the after. So I like that. It's nice and crisp, clean. It looks good. And then I like to try the HDR style just to see what kind of effect that gives. It'll be a little more processed looking. And that's not bad either, but I think I like the standard, so I'm going to go back to standard. Now you have the strength slider here. If you feel that was too strong, you can pull the strength back. Think of it as an opacity slider. It'll just ease off on the effect. You can also go to presets right here. And in presets, you got a bunch of different presets. You know, you might find something here that really excites you. You know, you might say like, well, you know what? This one right here, dark mood, looks cool. So you click on that and you say, that's nice. Are there any others? Of course, I have all these in this list here of featured, or I can come here and click, and I could go to HDR looks and see what some of these guys look like. Here's a black and white, Ansel Adams, like black and white. That's kind of fun. And here's Coastal Sunrise. My cat is on the coast, you know. So we have these different looks that we can try in here. And then that's HDR, and then we have stylized, more stylized looking looks. Let's try one like New Vintage Fade, more of a faded look. Here's a warm cocoa. So we have different looks in here. Now to get out of here, all I need to do is go to controls, and those settings will be applied here. But if I decide, hey, I don't want those, I just want the standard, I just have to come here and click undo, and it'll go back to that standard setting. And now I can make some further adjustments on these adjustments here. Under brightness, I have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. I think I might pull my highlights back just a little bit. I always like to ease off of my highlights a little bit. And sometimes I'll open my shadows up just to lighten them up a bit. And I might do that. Just open those shadows up a little bit. And then we have color, we have temperature and tint and saturation. Let me give it a little warmth. So I'm going to warm up the temperature a little bit. Not too much. I don't want my fur to go yellow. So I'm going to give it a little bit of temperature. I think the saturation is good, so I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to go down into clarity. Now think of clarity as a very sophisticated contrast control, and it deals with micro, very small amounts of clarity, or I should say contrast, low amounts, medium, and high. Okay, now think of micro areas as more like a sharpening. It'll sharpen, and it's good for the fur of this cat. Okay, so watch. I'm going to start to move this to the right, and you notice that fur. Can you see that fur starting to get a lot crisper? I don't want to go too crazy here because a little goes a long way, so I'm going to give it a little bit of micro. I'm going to adjust the contrast in low areas. Now you can move these contrast controls to the right, or you can move them to the left. I'm going to add a little extra contrast on the low, maybe a little bit on the medium. And don't be afraid to push these and pull these just to see what they do. A little bit of medium there looks nice, and high. Let's try the high. That's too much. I might go a little bit negative on the high. Not much, but just a little bit negative. Now I'm not going to mess with detail because I've already sharpened this image, and detail is more like sharpening, but it lets you do adjustments in small, medium, and large areas. And there's also sharpening in here as well. And then we have split toning and grain, but I don't need any of that. I think I'm happy with this. And then at the very bottom of this list right here, we have this opacity slider. It's different than the opacity slider up under Auto Adjust AI under Standard and HDR, where this adjusts the strength of that Auto Adjust AI adjustment. Where down here at the bottom, it's the overall opacity of everything that you've done to the image, all these adjustments, including the Auto Adjust AI. I'm going to leave it full up because I'll show you in Topaz Studio 2 how there's an opacity slider there as well. But let's go ahead and apply this, and that'll send us back into Topaz Studio 2. Now, if you'll notice in our layer stack, now we have another layer called Adjust AI output right above the Sharpen AI output, and it's got a little eye here, so you can toggle this on and off to see your adjustment. But look how nice that came out with the Adjust AI. Really quick and easy. And also, when I click on this, you'll also notice I have this opacity adjustment, because remember I told you we can ease this adjustment back if we think we've went too far. But I like it. I think it looks really good. Maybe I will ease it back. How about a 93, just to say I eased it back. So we started out with this image, and we end up with this image so far. Now what else do we want to do with it? Well, let's go ahead and click on Add Filter. Now, we've used Adjust AI and we use Sharpen AI. Man, we could use Mask AI if we want to. This tutorial would get a little bit too long if I use Mask AI, but I could use it to blur the background out a little bit if I wanted to. But let me try something else. Oh, I know what to try. Let's try the focal blur. I love the focal blur. It's another way of blurring your image. And when you click on that, you get this tool right here, and you can adjust the shape of it here, and you can move it around. And to get rid of that, you just click this, okay? Click it again and it comes back on. But you can go ahead and adjust it any way you want. And I'm thinking of like a lens baby look. And as I said at the start of the video, I was so bummed that I missed the top of the cat's ear. So now let's blur it out, okay? Let's give it more of a lens baby look. So something like that. Now the paw doesn't have to be in focus here, but I can pull this down and get a little bit more of that paw in focus right here. And some of the fabric there. That looks kind of cool. And now we have this transition over here. Now this transition, when I adjust it, the transition area starts at the edge of this oval shape here, at this edge, and it moves in this way, moves in and out. See, watch when I take the transition and move it to the left. It goes the whole way up and touches the edge there. Right now, when I move it to the right, it'll slide out. And you just adjust it to where you think it looks right. And again, we can move this around. And if you don't want to see this tool on here, just click on the cross here, and that goes away. But yeah, look at that. It's kind of like that lens baby look. And if we needed more blur, we could just move this blur to the right, and that'll give us a little bit of extra blur. I don't want to go too crazy. See, that doesn't look right. It looks unnatural, right? So we just want to add some extra blur in there. Now, that's not enough. And I'm thinking right about there. Yeah, I'll adjust that transition a little bit more. Now let's click on this. I might just up the size here just a little bit. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Now here's the before. Cool image, right? But here's the after. Doesn't that add a lot of extra character to the image? I really like it. I think I'll finish this off with a little bit of a dark vignette. And the vignette lives right under creative at the very bottom of the list under creative here. And I just want to darken the edges a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to move this to right, darken up the edges a little bit. I think that's going to look good. Maybe somewhere right in there. And we can adjust the size. Might be too dark. Don't want to go too crazy here. I'm thinking right there. I think that's going to look pretty good right there. Here's the before, and here's the after. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that's nice. One last thing I want to do, and I just noticed this. See these light areas on the edges there? I want to get rid of that. I could use a healing tool, but I think I'm just going to get a crop tool to take care of that. So just come down here and click on crop. And you want to make sure your aspect ratio is set to original. Now you have different aspect ratios or custom. Let's click on original. I'm just going to pull this in a little bit. Just like that. I think that's going to be nice. Make sure my cat's eyes are right on the third here. I think that looks good. Maybe right like that. And I'm going to click apply. And yeah, I think that looks so much better. I'm much more happier with this now. This image started out as an iPhone image. It was a JPEG image. I sent it into JPEG to RAW AI and up-converted it to a RAW image so we could do some major editing on it. And then I sent it into Topaz Studio 2 and it looked like this. And then we added some plugins on it. We used Sharpen Ai, Adjust Ai. And then I added a focal blur filter and a vignette filter, and we ended up looking like this. So I'm really happy with the results here. Now, if you're totally happy, all you need to do is come up here to File. You can either save it as a project or export it as a TIFF, JPEG, or a PNG, whatever you want. Or you can export it in all of the formats. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and click that bell notification icon. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you will be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Cully. I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.